From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird. This is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, whenever or wherever you are listening to this program. I am Johnny the Frost, and joining me, as always, is the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
Good. Today
Good.
was a good day.
A good day. Yeah, it was a pretty good day. It was, well, we had like a little bit of sun today.
Yeah,
You
it was a
know,
very
we kind
nice
of
weather day for sure.
kind of a spring fever day kind of for I think for me definitely ready
Mhm.
for the warm weather as we leave the well kind of one of the colder winters we've had
In a
down
while.
here in
Down in the south.
for a while. So yeah, well, Jenny, are you you want to get weird?
Of course.
All right, well, we're going to get weird tonight for all you weirdos in chat. Welcome in, welcome in. It's glad to see all of you, no matter where you're watching or listening. If you're over here in Twitch, or you're over there in YouTube, or over on Facebook, or if you're listening at another time in another place, we are 100% happy to have you in here. And I guess I want to use that as a reminder. If you've listened to the program before and you enjoy what we have been doing, feel free to go leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts or over on Spotify, because they do help. They help people find the program and be able to tune in and check out all the wonderful guests and shows that we have.
As we
Which,
know, reviews always help people realize when
yeah,
things aren't garbage.
yeah, exactly. Well, you know, we were talking last week. Was it the last show? We made that one list or whatever that I found
Oh
out of
yeah.
nowhere. Yeah, and it's like, okay, and that was by reviews. So we
Yeah.
appreciate everyone who's gone over there and left us one. If you have done that, we appreciate it. Um, all right, Jenny. Well, you ready to get into some news?
Yes, hopefully good things this week.
Well, you brought this up to me today. I had already had it finished. The strongest evidence of alien life yet found 124 light years away. Astronomers announced Thursday that they had detected the most promising hints of potential life on a planet beyond our solar system,
Mhm.
though other scientists express skepticism.
Of course.
There has been vigorous debate in scientific circles about whether the planet K218b, which is
Of course it
124
has a
light
dumb
years
name.
away, yeah, in the Leo constellation,
Ooh,
in the
yay.
Leo constellation, there you go, could be an ocean world capable of hosting microbial life. And I already read this story. There's going to be something I know we're going to talk about. Using the James Webb Space Telescope, a British U.S. team of researchers detected signs of two chemicals in the planet's atmosphere long considered to be biosignatures
Mhm.
indicating extraterrestrial life.
Yay.
On Earth, the chemicals dimethyl sulfide and dimethyl disulfide are produced only by life,
Those are fun to
mostly
say.
microscopic marine algae called phytoplankton. The
Nice.
researchers emphasized caution, saying that the more observations were needed to confirm these findings, and they were not announcing a definitive discovery, but the implications could be huge, according to Niku Madhusudan, a Cambridge University astrophysicist, and I'm sure I just butchered that name, and
A
lead
good shot.
author of the study, published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. What
Okay.
we are finding at this point are hints of possible biological activity outside of the solar system. Frankly, I think this is the closest we have come to seeing a feature that we can attribute to life. But outside experts pointed to disputes over previous discoveries about the exoplanet, adding that these chemicals could have been created by unknown means having nothing to do with life. But the doctor estimated that it would take just 16 to 24 more hours of Webb's time to confirm their findings, which could
Oh, cool.
happen in the next few years. Even beyond
Oh, okay,
K218b.
but hold on.
Yeah,
You say it's 16 to 18 more hours?
yeah, 16 to 24 more hours.
It's 16 to 24 more hours.
Mhm.
And then why is it going to take them 2 years?
Because everybody signed up for time to use the James Webb Telescope, and to get time on the telescope, you have to have is like very competitive. So people all over
Ay,
the world and all kinds of universities and institutions are reserving time for the James Webb because they
yeah,
can only look at one thing
yeah,
at a time.
Yes, I
So
understand that.
imagine you had a camera and you wanted to take a picture of a tree, but there were
Mhm.
1,000,000 people who wanted to use your camera, then so that's the issues
I
there.
be getting my own damn camera.
Well, yes. Make your own James Webb space telescope.
So it's gonna take
It's gonna
2
take a couple
years
years.
of their time to come back around is essentially what that meant.
Yeah, to get the amount of time they
And
need
then
to
it's like a
confirm it.
day worth of time for them to get the
Yeah,
information they need. Okay.
yeah. Mhm. So even beyond K218b, they said future telescopes could allow humanity to discover life outside our home planet sooner than one might think. This would be the tipping point where suddenly the fundamental question of whether we're alone in the universe is one we're capable of answering.
I
And
really hope that this is not what Spirit has been
I
telling us, that it was gonna be the alien information being open to everybody was just some algae on a planet somewhere
yeah. Well, I
in
mean,
2 years.
it's okay. So here's the thing. Here's the
Because
thing
that
about
is something Spirit would do. They'd be like, "You wanna know when they're gonna gonna find out about ETs? Okay, it's gonna be 2 years from
you
now."
really want to
And
know?
then it's gonna be like, "Oh,
You
it
really
was
want
just some
to
algae in a sea somewhere."
know?
Ugh.
Well, Jenny, it could be what about your slimes? It could be the most intelligent life in the
Those
universe.
slimes lived in a forest with trees, so
Okay.
that was more than just some algae. Anyway, keep
Well, that
going
was
with
one of
your
the things I was going to say about this news story. One of the parts that I left out was some of the outside scientists were talking about how like it wouldn't be that big of a discovery because it couldn't be intelligent life. And I was like, uh,
please
I
don't make me
mean,
get on my
how do
soapbox.
we know that
Let's
intelligent life can't develop in the ocean? I mean, we still have the debates now about dolphins and
uh,
whales. So it's
so
like,
long and thanks for all the fish, right?
yeah.
And let's go to the next story. We're gonna spend all night talking about
All right.
this. We need
Number
Heidi to come
2,
on.
man hospitalized after sniffing dirty socks. The unnamed man, described in local media as a regular office worker from China, was admitted to the Southwest Hospital of the Army Medical University after his relentless cough started interfering with his sleep. He'd already tried treating it with over the counter meds, but nothing worked. Doctors ran a scan and found a troubling signs of infection in his right lung. That's when they performed a bronchoscopy, a procedure where a flexible tube is inserted into the throat to collect samples
Ouch.
from the airways. The test revealed
And they found a dirty
asparaginnosis,
sock in there? Is that what happened?
a lung disease caused by inhaling spores from mold. During questioning,
Oh,
the man
man.
identified in local media reports under the pseudonym Lee Key casually revealed that he had a habit of sniffing his used socks after taking them off at the end of the day. This was
Oh,
apparently part of his everyday routine. Years of
years
sock
of
sniffing.
smelling dirty socks.
Yeah.
Why what the I got so many questions. How the hell did he get mold on his socks after just one use? Was he not washing them in between?
Well, doctors
Was
tested
he
the
trying to
socks.
get to see how smelly they were
Yeah.
gonna be?
And the socks had the same strain of fungus. His footwear had essentially turned into a mold nursery. So it's coming from his shoes, more than likely.
Oh,
According to
oh, yeah, yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Lu
That
Hu,
makes more
deputy
sense.
director of the hospital's respiratory department, the damp, salty environment inside used socks made it the perfect
Oh,
breeding ground. Doctors
oh.
say the man recovered fully with treatment, though it's unclear whether he'll be uh, still sniffing socks in the
Somebody
future.
buy that man some new shoes. Burn all those socks.
Story number
Wash your
3.
feet. That's the lesson of that story. Anyway, keep going.
Story number 3. Dozens arrested in Iraqi crackdown on witchcraft.
Oh, man.
Authorities in Iraq arrested a whopping 48 people accused of illegally practicing witchcraft. The suspected sorcerers were reportedly taken into custody as part of a sweeping crackdown on the proverbial dark arts on the part of the country's Ministry of Interior.
Mm.
In
Don't
detailing the
let Trump hear
arrest
about this.
earlier this week, the agency indicated that the 2-week-long operation was conducted in coordination with the Iraqi's
He'll start
Supreme
deporting us witches out.
Judicial Council, which sought to put an end to dangerous phenomena that pose a direct threat to social peace, ethical values, and the rule of
We're all
law.
getting deported to Avalon. Get
The
out.
48 The 48 men and women who were arrested by federal agents in Baghdad and surrounding areas stand accused of practicing sorcery while claiming to offer spiritual healing or solutions to family problems.
Mm.
Should those swept up in the literal witch hunt be convicted of exploiting people's belief in magic for financial gain, which is one of the charges they're being accused of, they could face a possible 5-year prison sentence under Iraqi law.
Damn.
The recent arrests are in keeping, which what we've been talking about. We've had other news stories with similar efforts to squash sorcery in the Middle East and Central Asia, as both Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan have taken aim at the practice in the past year.
Yikes.
So this is the third story we've had about countries that have been kind of having widespread witch hunts, I guess. I mean, to a certain degree.
History repeats itself.
Yeah, for sure. Number 4, severe solar storm alert issued. Auroras expected in the far south. Night sky watchers across the United States are in for another surprise. Last night and tonight, a fresh blast of charged particles from the sun, a G4 severe geomagnetic storm, is currently sweeping past our planet with colorful auroras expected as far south as Alabama.
Oh, does that mean we can actually see them now?
Possibly.
We missed it last time.
The sun, currently in a busy phase of its 11-year cycle, has been hurling coronal mass ejections. You can say it one time, Jenny.
I'll skip it. I already made enough jokes tonight.
Toward Earth at a brisk pace this week. One of those eruptions has already sparked moderate geomagnetic storms and could strengthen after dusk and possibly drifting all the way to April 18th, setting the stage for a vivid show. Because the current CME pushed solar winds speeds to roughly 375 miles per second, up from 250 miles per second earlier this week. Experts consider conditions ripe for vigorous auroras if the magnetic orientation tilts the right way.
Well, we'll have to go out after the witching hours and see if we see anything this time.
And that was the weird news.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. All right,
now,
guys. Heidi Kemper is a psychic medium who is passionate about helping people who are seeking guidance and insight about their past, present, and future. She also has the gift of mediumship and is honored to connect people with their loved ones in spirit, along with their spirit guides, guardian angels, and higher level beings. Heidi is also a healer, a nurse by profession. She has always been drawn to helping people find healing. Reiki and soul retrieval are 2 ways in which she assists people in their healing journey. Over the last 5 years, Heidi has become fascinated by the paranormal world and recently had the honor of being the guest psychic medium on the longest running reality TV paranormal show, The Ghost Finders. Please welcome to the show, Heidi Kemper. How are you doing, Heidi?
Hi, guys. Good. How are you? Hello.
Wonderful.
Hello.
It's so nice to see you again after we met you at the Hanover Tavern.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that was a great event back in January. And I'm happy to be here today. So thanks for having me.
Yay. Excellent. I love your angel painting in the back.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got some angel wings over here on a candle holder.
Love it.
I got a little angel thing going on.
Yeah. I got a thing with the angels too. I work with Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. They're my buddies. So
that's wonderful.
All of my work involves them. So angels have a big presence in my life.
That's super cool. We're going to talk more about it. But first, we should start at the beginning, don't you think?
Well, yeah. Well, I had a question. I always do that, but then I'm going to throw it off because I had a question because we already mentioned the Hanover.
He always wants to start at the beginning.
That's what I always say. But see, you ruined it.
Let's start at the beginning.
So I have a question before we go back to the beginning, which is you mentioned. We mentioned we met at the Hanover Tavern Paracon. Yeah. Was that your first time at the Hanover Tavern Paracon, or had you been there before, Heidi?
Actually, it was my second time. So I was there the year prior. And my friend, I met Steve Dills, who is one of the organizers of the Hanover Tavern Paracon. And it's been getting bigger and bigger every year. And Steve and I met on the set of The Ghost Finders. And he invited me, and I came back again this past year. And every year it gets bigger and bigger. This year was pretty special because we remembered our friend David Taylor. David a wonderful, wonderful person. And it was tough, but it was nice for everybody to get together. He died at the beginning of January, and the Hanover Tavern event was first weekend of February. So it was nice for everybody to be able to get together and do a memorial for him, a candlelight vigil, and remember him. So you could feel his spirit throughout the whole event, and it just made it that much more special. So
Yeah, it really is. It really was a special event. That was our second year also. And I don't know. I absolutely love it. And you're absolutely correct. It gets from the 2 years we've been there, it gets bigger and better every year. And I'm already looking forward to next year. We don't go to a lot. We're going to be going to more Paracons this year. So we're kind of new. We've been to, a little bit, but not as much as a lot of other people. So I'm already looking forward to next year because it's always great. Like I said, if you don't go, and you're into the paranormal, what are you waiting for? Because it's a great opportunity to be able to go out and be around like-minded people.
yeah,
We talked about this last time, so I don't want to like beat the dead horse or whatever, but I'm not someone who likes to go out into big gatherings very often. And so sometimes I kind of get that like, oh, we got this thing coming up. And then when I get there, it's like, oh, this is great because everyone here is really cool. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah. I think for me, I've been in the paranormal to be 2 years this May. I've had my gift and been practicing my psychic mediumship practice for the last 10 years. But 2 years ago is when I was introduced to the paranormal field, being the guest psychic medium on the Ghost Finders. It started out as one episode and turned into a few more, and really just opened my eyes to a whole new world. I think Paracons, I've been to each year more and more. And I find that that's probably my favorite part. My favorite part is getting around like-minded people that are weirdos like us.
yeah.
And understand, the passion, because it's a passion. That's definitely, I don't think the paranormal is someplace you're going to become a millionaire or make a ton of money. It's definitely a passion and something that, you have to have that feeling inside, that excitement. So that's probably my favorite part, other than investigating and doing shoots. Those are fun too. But I just love the networking and meeting people in the field and learning new things and meeting people like you guys. So
Yeah.
It's like a sense of community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now we'll go where Jenny wanted to go, which
okay,
is
thanks.
let us go back to the beginning. So how did you get
so
with your gifts, being a psychic medium, how did that come about for you? How did that all kind of get started for you?
So as a child, looking back as an adult now, knowing that different points in my life, I've always had the gift. It was just one of those things that um, was kind of pushed under the rug. I know that for me, when I was 18, 19 years old, I started learning about tarot cards and astrology. And that's kind of what brought me into studying esoteric arts, metaphysical, and got into that 18, 19 years old, college age. Was born and raised Catholic, was taught, not to delve into the unknown, and to be a good Catholic girl and follow the Bible and be afraid of all of those things. Fast forward to I was 20, almost turning 21. I lost my brother in a car accident. He was driving home from spring break with his fraternity brothers. There were 4 guys in the car, and 3 of the 4 passed away. One of the guys lived, and my brother was one of the ones that passed. And after he passed away, as you can imagine, was super devastating. He and I were super close. We were only 15 months apart. So we had a lot of the same friends. We went to the same college. And as you could imagine, it was devastating to my family, to my community to my college that I went to at the time, Eastern Michigan University. And it was very difficult. With that started my mediumship, not realizing that that's really when my mediumship started to come to the surface. Pretty much every few weeks, I would have dreams about my brother, and he would come to me in dreams and give me messages. He would tell me, tell mom this, tell dad that, tell John this, tell Kelly that. And he would come and tell me about heaven. He would tell me, this is what I'm doing over here. I'm taking classes on, how to process, things that I wasn't able to finish in life. It was funny. He was like, I'm taking a class on how to deal with dad. My dad.
There's a whole class just for your dad?
Just for my dad, right? So, and he'd come and say, I want Johnny to have my bike. I want you to do this. And so that all started, and I had a little journal and I would write down all the dreams. And, fast forward to other times when people would lose people, I would make connections with their loved ones, and I didn't really understand it. It was always in dreams. So I thought it's just a dream, whatever, but I knew it was something more. And I started to read books about what happens in the afterlife, what happens when you cross over. I started to learn about mediumship, and, delve into that whole world.
So were you sharing the dream messages with your family when they're happening? How did they take it?
They took it as a great comfort,
that's good.
big comfort. And, but yet I still didn't really identify as a medium. It was just like, this is just a thing.
These things that are happening, if you don't know you don't have a word for it yet.
Right. Yeah. And so fast forward, graduate from college, get a degree in nursing, get married, start my family, made a great career in nursing, but there always was something missing. And I always was just very religious, spiritual, interested in angels, and still interested in, psychics and reading tarot and astrology and all of that. And then a friend one day just came, and he and I had talked many different times about our interest. And he's like, I have this class and I want you to see this flyer. And this flyer was about this course called Intuitive Practitioner Certification here in Michigan. A shamanic medium, Lori Lipton, she is my good friend, mentor, and teacher, was holding this certification course. And so being somebody who, had my bachelor's and my master's degree, this made sense to me. Oh, okay. Let's just go and get this certification, not even really understanding what I was walking into. And I remember the first day.
That was your ticket to the woo-woo train.
That was the start. That was the start. And I remember the first class I went to, we met once a month for a year. And the first class we showed up and we checked in at the desk and we signed in. And I remember looking around at all these people, and there was like 25 of us. And I was like, oh my God, there's other people like me.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm so excited. There's other people like me. And I found my tribe. And so for that next year, I learned all about mediumship. I learned about shamanic arts. My teacher is a shaman, and trained as a shaman with some wonderful people in the field, and trained under people that trained with Sandra Ingerman, who's a big author and big person in the shamanic training in the field. And so we did our mediumship class, and every class I thought was better and better and better. And the mediumship class, we sat down in a circle, and we just started. She walked us through exercises, and I had always thought mediumship was fascinating. I would watch people like Teresa Caputo. I would watch John Edwards when he first came out. I would watch Kim, I can't think of her name. I don't want to screw her name up. Anyway, No, Kim Williams. Yes. Lisa Williams. Lisa
Lisa
Williams.
Williams. That's
Yes.
right.
Yes. Williams. And was just fascinated. I thought, oh my God, what a beautiful gift. I would love to have that gift. So here we are in this mediumship class and doing these exercises. And next thing you know, I'm just like getting all these images in my head and connecting. And, we really learned a meditative state, and that's how we started it out. And I'm getting all these images. And so she's like, just start talking. And next thing you know, I'm connecting one of my classmates with her sister who had passed away of leukemia.
Wow.
And I was giving her all these details about the hospital that she was at, that she had been on all the floors of the hospital, that she made it all the way to the rooftop, and it showed all these details. And I was in awe. I was like, this really happening? What is this? And so that is when I first realized that I had something and learned how to tune into it and developed it and never looked back. And so that was like 2013, 2014. And then I started doing readings out of my home and had my own practice. And then 2 years ago, when I got into the paranormal, I had a huge shift in my life and really started opening my own practice in an office space while still keeping my career as a nurse manager. And that was super stressful and couldn't keep doing it that way. So went down to staff nursing again and did that. And I recently just left nursing altogether. So
wow.
I'm doing this full time.
Congratulations.
And living my dream. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's my story. But the paranormal really has helped me step into my gifts fully because I feel like you can't appreciate the light without understanding the dark, right? And last 2 years have been really dark for me. I've been through some major transformations, end of a marriage, 25-year marriage, a big shift. And it really took leaving everything from my old life to step into my new life. And so as hard as it's been, I am super grateful for it. And I'm just putting one foot in front of the other and just saying, okay, Spirit, show me the next step. What do you want me to do now? What do you want me to do now? So
that's all we can do some days.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So now that you've been in the paranormal field for a couple of years, looking back over your time as a nurse, did you have paranormal experiences in your nursing career?
I did. Yes. So again, when I was a brand new nurse, still didn't necessarily realize everything that I had. I was a brand new nurse working midnight shift, and I worked in an intensive care unit. And back then, in the late 90s, 1999, they did not hire new nurses in the ICU. It was extremely rare. And I had been a nurse tech in the ICU during nursing school, so they hired me. And I was on the midnight shift, and there were quite a few deaths, as you can imagine, working in the intensive care unit, extremely sick patients. Some nights, you would be trying to keep your patient alive the whole night. And, I saw quite a bit of death.
Yeah.
One particular patient, I'll never forget her. She had been battling lymphoma and leukemia. I can't remember exactly one of the two, and was super sick and had a bone marrow transplant at one point, and the body was rejecting the bone marrow transplant. And so we were doing everything we could to try to keep her alive and keeping her on blood pressure medications. And we had her maxed out, and the family had said, do everything you can. And so I was in her room and I was doing a blood draw off of her arterial line. And I just start hearing like somebody talking in my head, but it wasn't my voice, right? Yeah. And it was, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I'm either really tired, it's 4:00 in the morning, or I'm connecting with this patient, and this doesn't make sense to me. And I'm thinking, please just wait until I get off my shift at 7:30. You know, it'd be great if you just waited. But I continued to just go in there and be with her. And she was just explaining to me that she wanted to go, when her family wasn't there, that she really wanted to go during the midnight shift because she wanted to leave before the family was there because she knew how hard it would be for them. And again, I didn't want people to think I was crazy. So I didn't share this with any of the nurses I was with because I was like, I'm either losing it or something's really happening here. And probably about 5:15, 5:30, I finally got the gall to say, okay, I'm going to go down and get a pop out of the machine and get a granola bar and just take a little break and come back. When you're a new nurse, you don't want to leave your patients, especially in the ICU. So, you usually bring a lunch and a dinner, and, you eat while you're watching the monitor because you want to make sure your patients are good. And somebody finally convinced me to go, stepped away, and I came back. No sooner did I walk back in the department, and she was coding, and ran in the room, and doctors are working. And I'm like, I'm thinking we should maybe call the family. I know she's not, she's like, it's supposed to be a do everything, but I feel like we should call the family. What, can we call? And so we called the family and let them know, that we were coding her and, the situation. And it was crazy because this family had not wanted to give anything up. They wanted to keep doing everything. And at that particular moment in time, they were just like, let her go. And so we stopped all measures. And instead of working on this poor woman's body for an hour and a half, we were able to work on her for 10 minutes maybe. And I was grateful that I had that connection with her earlier because I felt like as a nurse, you want to always do what's best for your patient. Yes, your goal is to keep them alive, but sometimes it's just not worth all the pain and suffering that they have to go through. Their body has to endure when the end result's going to be that anyway. So I was grateful that I had that connection with her. And as I was doing her end of life care, removing all of the tubes and washing her body and putting the clothing on and the blankets, a little tear tripped down her cheek all by itself. And as that happened, I knew her soul was there. It wasn't in her body, but it was there in the room. And it was thanking me for helping her cross in a dignified way. And I stayed past my shift, and the family ended up coming in, and I was able to, bring them in and be there for the family and kind of help make that happen. So I felt very honored. I think death is a very honorable time to be with somebody, just like birth is. We kind of make death taboo and a scary thing, but it's actually a very sacred time in somebody's life. So I was glad to be able to be part of that. But yes, that was looking back, that was totally my mediumship.
Oh yeah.
But again, I was in denial, and I didn't really know at that point what was happening. So I never shared it with any of the nurses at the time that I worked with, but later on I did, so.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm a crying mess after that story.
Yeah. It was truly an honor. And I never took it lightly. I've never taken that part of my career lightly. I worked in the cath lab almost most of my career. And in the cath lab, you're taking care of patients who are having a heart attack a lot of times, and you're emergently opening that artery and saving their lives. And there were quite a few situations, again, same kind of thing, where I had that connection with the patient before. The patients would say, I don't have a good feeling, that impending feeling of doom, which is super common when you have no blood flow to parts of your heart.
Yeah.
But I always kind of knew. I would just look at my coworkers will look at me, and I'd give them that look like, they'd be like, what do you think? Oh, great. They're like, Heidi knows if it's not going to be, successful. And they would just give me a look and I'd be like, and they're like, great. Now I know what kind of night we're going to have,
The
Um,
psychic nurse.
yeah. Yeah. But again, early on, I didn't know what it was. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
story of the lady that you shared with me. So my grandma passed away just about a year ago. I think it was a year ago on the 12th, if I'm remembering correctly. And there's a lot of parallels there. And I think she did the same thing. She didn't want to pass when the family was there.
chills. I'm saying chills. So
Yeah.
that when I say chills, it's my confirmation from spirit that what you're saying is true.
And it was like around the same time in the morning. It was like 5:15 or 5:45 in the morning. And it's like she wanted to go on her own without us being around her, like by herself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that until just now when you shared that story.
And it truly happens. And I find that oftentimes when I do readings for people, a lot of times, spirits and people in spirit will want to communicate with their loved ones about the end of their life,
Yeah.
as a way to, and most of the time it's a traumatic experience for people if they were there when it happened, or if they didn't get to be there when it happened.
Yep.
A lot of times there's feelings of guilt or feelings of regret because they didn't take that flight, or they, went to
make
work
it
that day, or they didn't make it in time. And
Mhm.
honestly, I can tell you, like, every spirit, every soul chooses when they're going to go.
I think so too. Yeah.
And that's what I've been shown. And so sometimes they don't want anybody there because they know how hard it's going to be for those individuals to witness it.
My
Or
grandma was just stubborn and very personal, and she didn't want anybody to see it.
Yep.
It's amazing how many stories I've heard about people who like go on their own terms, like basically like call like I had a grandfather who did that. Like we were visiting, we lived out of country, and so we came back home, and my little sister was quite a bit younger than me, so she was like getting to an age where she was like 3 or 4, and so my grandmother would tell the story like we were leaving to go back to where we were living, and he went over after we left, and he looked over at her and said, well, now if I die, she'll remember me. My youngest grandchild will remember me, so I can go now. And it was like 3 days later he died.
Yep. Yep.
Like out of, just there was no like, oh,
And
he's going to die soon.
And he had been the healthiest he had been in like a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a complete, yeah. But it was just one of those things that I've heard many other people tell those stories about their family as well. Like, yeah, like, this happened, and then he's, this person said this thing, and then 2 days later, and it's amazing how often that seems to occur.
Yeah, I have a friend right now who is at her mom's bedside, who's on hospice. She's had Alzheimer's for about 7-8 years now, and the last 2 years, well, last probably 6 months, she's been bedbound. And she texted me day before yesterday that she was flying back to Michigan. She lives in Boston, and her sister had flown in from Sweden, and I'm like, no doubt she's waiting, for her to get there. And so it's a sacred time. Hospice nursing is something that I've always thought would be something I'd like to try one day, even though I'm not going to really be working as much as a nurse. If I do, it'll be part-time. But I think it's a special calling. And I think as a medium, there's something special that I could offer the family in that. And I keep being shown that death is going to be experienced differently as we go forward in time, as everybody starts to elevate. We're going to start treating death as sacred as it is. And I see, there's death doulas now, and there are some people that are mediums that work with patients as hospice nurses. So that's something that I would love to possibly get into one of these days. and get involved in that, because I find it fascinating, and I feel like it's something that it's another way that we can bring death into a normal conversation.
Mhm.
Because as we know, working in the paranormal, death is not an end. When we die, things still happen. We can,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
soul lives, our body is just holding our soul. We're not a soul with a, we're a soul with a body, not a body with a soul, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that I see society, most especially the American society. Some countries are really good at it.
Mhm.
Some tribes are really good at it. You have
Mhm.
tribes that still, do ceremonies, and I think it's a time that we really need to celebrate. And so
That's yeah, I agree. And first off, I guess I want to preface this by saying that, however someone determines they want to honor, the death of a loved one, there's like no correct way, right? Like you should do it however you want to do it. But for me, I've always thought that the way that we do it in America or in our society typically just tends to, I don't know, I don't see, like, I wish there was more celebration.
yes,
Like, it's okay that there's sadness, of course, for sure,
right,
100%. But,
right,
like, I don't but in a lot of ways, it almost seems taboo to have a sense
Mhm.
of celebration or joy with it too, like, celebrating who this person was, and, like, they should be remembered, and so we're gonna share stories with I know Jenny said this a lot. She gets really mad
Get
when we
so
go to
mad.
funerals and no one talks.
And it's not
yeah,
She's
like
like
the funeral that's not personal about the
yes,
person who's
yeah,
passed makes me
yeah.
so upset. Yeah.
I agree.
and
I agree. I
And
agree.
then, you have a pastor or a preacher or whoever who goes up who maybe knew the person, or sometimes they just haven't asked information about them because they didn't know the
Mhm.
person. And it's you have all these people who are around this person. Like, why not share, stories and celebrate like the what they gave, what they contributed to the world,
Right, right.
Yeah.
And grief it's a real thing. And
Mhm.
as a medium, I find that um, you know, doing a reading, usually after somebody passes, I'll have people try to reach out right away that don't understand the process of crossing over, and that the soul needs to orient to the other side. And so a lot of
Mhm.
times I will get calls, my cousin died 2 weeks ago, or my husband died a month ago, or, a week ago, my mom died a week ago. I want to come in for a reading. Grief's a real thing. And when someone passes, we miss their physical presence. But the soul has an orientation process to do.
Mhm.
And so what I always tell clients is I like to wait at least 3 months until we try to connect. Um, and I would say 90% of the time I'm able to connect by the 3 month mark, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. If it was a very tragic death, like a murder or a suicide, or something very untimely, it can take a little
Mhm.
bit longer. But
Yeah.
usually by the 90 days, I'm able to. But there's kind of
Mhm.
an unsaid rule. You really have to leave that soul alone for at least 45 days minimum, because they're going through life review. They're going through the life review process.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're in such shock when they get to the other side that they have to be, I always call it like cocooning. They cocoon them. Um, they
Mhm.
kind of rock them to the other side and get them used to being on that in heaven, in that new frequency. And so even though time is not existent in heaven, and time is something that we created here on earth, um, that usually is about the time that it's going to take for somebody to be able to make a connection.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well. And it is weird to think that, there's really no time there, but then they do need our time.
Yes,
It gets very confusing.
they need our
Uh
time. Yes.
yeah, they need our time. But have you had the opposite happen though? where you weren't expecting someone that passed so soon and they come through and you're like, how are you know, how?
Mhm.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. And a lot of times it's souls that have been, a lot of times, believe it or not, it's like the Alzheimer's or dementia patients or people that have had memory issues, or like part of their soul has already, I always say the way I'm shown and the way that I explain it to people is when they're have Alzheimer's or dementia, a lot of times their soul travels between
Mhm.
here
Yes.
and heaven.
It's
Yes.
like they have one foot in and one foot out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. We've had
So
conversations about this before, but we haven't talked about that on this show yet.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so they already exactly, they have one foot in one world and one foot in the other. So when it comes time, it's like they have they're so excited to talk to their loved ones again and
Yeah.
make connection, because they haven't been able to, because their physical body and their brain and have not allowed them to be able to express themselves. So a lot of times they get over there and they're just like so ready to talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find a lot of times those are the I would say patients, those are the souls that come through quickly.
That would
Yeah.
make sense because it's like they've already had some time to orient themselves
Yeah.
because they were there like popping in and out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And even people
Yeah.
who have like a long chronic condition, like, cancer, like a long battle with cancer, or something where, they've been hospitalized, for a long time and on life support, and it's the same kind of situation where they've already gone through the orientation process.
Yeah.
They're cool, they're chill, they're comfortable in heaven, and they're ready to come back and talk to us. So
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really interesting concept too, and I've really wondered about that with Alzheimer's patients and patients with dementia, because I've had personal experience with that, and it's been something where we're like they'll openly tell you, like, so and so came last night and we hung out and we did this, and then I went and did that with them,
And
and
that
it's like,
person's been dead for 20 years.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like
The
really
real thing.
easy. It's really easy to dismiss it, but then when you start trying to put it in context, it's like, you know what? Like, I think that they might
That's
have. Like,
really what happened. Yeah.
yeah.
It's real. I remember my grandma. My grandma was this was like 2005, 2006, and my grandma was like 93 when she passed away. And I remember going to her place maybe a month before she passed. And my aunt had been having these episodes where she would drop my grandma off, she'd come back the next day and furniture would be everywhere, lamps and tables and things just thrown apart. And my aunt was like, "What is going on?" And my grandma's like, "They're coming for me every night. They're coming through the mirror to come get me and to take me."
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and so that I remember that being disturbing. But then she
Yeah.
started talking about my papa coming, and which was her husband, and he had been passed for like 15 years by that time. And she was just sitting there, and she's just as simple and is completely normal, as not on any morphine yet, nothing. And she's like, "Yes," and she never lost her marbles either. She was sharp as a tack all the way to the end. And she's like, "Yeah, Papa came yesterday. He's been coming in the morning. We've been having coffee. We've been talking." And, and I'm just like, "Oh, okay." And again, at that time, I knew, I believed in all that, but I didn't quite understand it to the degree that I later ended up understanding. But yeah, so I totally believe it. I totally believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many instances like that when people get close to leaving to go to the other side. They
Yep.
start having a lot of visitors.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's when the time's coming. That's when
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Luz
got,
said earlier, I was going to say,
oh, go
Luz, I was
ahead.
just to mention what Luz said earlier. I put it up there. She said it's called nearing death awareness, which I hadn't heard of that term before. So there we go. Nearing death awareness.
What is called mirroring death awareness?
Knowing that they're going to, like, having that feeling that they're going to pass, like kind of knowing, calling it.
Got you. Got
Like
you.
the Yeah, so that's interesting because I hadn't actually heard an actual term put to that before.
Me
Go
either.
ahead, Jenny.
Me either.
I have 2 pages of things to talk about. So,
well, remember we're getting
bring
close
it.
to the top of the hour,
Okay.
so let's get started with.
Before we move on to another topic, let me go ahead and do my my reset since we're at the top of the hour.
Okay.
You're watching the Witching Hours podcast, brought to you by the Witching Hours podcast as of right now. Are you looking for more episodes? After this one ends, head to the witchinghourspodcast.com, official home of the web. You'll find future guests, links to all the social media sites, including our archive of past episodes on YouTube, information, upcoming events, including Team Weird Takeover at Lake Shawnee, June 7th and 8th, and our merch store where you can purchase exclusive merch for the Witching Hours. So if you're brave enough, visit the witchinghourspodcast.com. Stay weird, stay curious, and maybe just a little bit afraid.
Heck yeah.
And we have Heidi Kemper, psychic medium, with us tonight. If you are joined us later in the stream here, and we're talking about all things spirit and maybe other things too. So I wanted to circle back around to the angels. So clearly you have this connection probably from the beginning because you were raised Catholic. But then once you get into all the medium stuff and you find out that that's what it is and you learn about it, how do the angels make their appearance into your psychic and medium work?
So, in my studies, well, of course, being Catholic, angels were always something that I believed in as a little girl, and I would watch shows like Touched by an Angel. I would watch that one show with what was his name from Little House on the Prairie, John Landon.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about
Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven. It was. I just saw it on TV the other day, and I was like, "It's Highway to Heaven." Yeah,
loved, like always obsessed, right? Like totally loved those shows. Always believed in angels and had some angel encounters myself over the years, and heard angel encounters, and a big believer about it. And then when I started doing my studies, finding that one of the people that I read all her books was Sylvia Brown. Do you guys remember her?
Of course.
Yes.
I read one of those books too. Yeah.
Raspy voice. She would be on the Montel Williams show.
She used to be on Montel Williams, right?
Yeah.
Montel Williams, yeah.
With her long fingernails. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the media sometimes portrayed her to be a little kooky. Unfortunately, some people, are a little bit more eccentric, and she was a little bit more eccentric.
Yeah.
But
which for a lot of people in the spiritual world, that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I read all her books and like devoured them all, and would always highly say, whenever I have somebody come to me and they say, I want to learn more about spirituality and the afterlife and all of that, I always suggest her books because they're written in a way that are very relatable, nothing too far over your head, and really just, if you can read a book in like 2 hours. And so in her teachings, in her books, she always talked about angels and that she worked with the angels. And she too was brought up Catholic, but also had Judaism in her background. So she was brought up in kind of a family that had two different faiths. But she had a grandmother who also had the gift and always helped her normalize her gift. And angels are universal. They're universal in all religions, and universal in spirituality. And so all of her books talked about the angels and that you can call on them. They can be with you at any time. And I remember when she first introduced Archangel Michael and talked about how he is the protecting angel. He is the warrior angel. He's the angel for the police officers. That's why his color is blue. The police officers wear the color blue. He is the protecting angel. And I remember her talking about in the book that you can ask Archangel Michael to always be with you, to always protect you, to protect your loved ones. And you can make it, have an understanding, like always have my back. And so that's when my real connection with Archangel Michael started. And that was in my like late 20s. And would always call on him for protection if I needed, if I was scared or I wanted to clear a space, calling him in. And then as my gifts started to develop and I started to really step into my mediumship and embrace it and own it, he and I we got even closer. So, Archangel Michael being the protector, in every reading that I do, I always set the intention, to serve the client's highest good, whether that's information, as a psychic, I can tap into your past, present, and future. But as a medium, I can connect with higher level beings, loved ones in spirit, guardian angels, spirit guides, ascended masters. And I always tell my clients, I surrender and I trust that whatever information is going to serve your highest good is what's going to come through. And with that, I set the intention for Archangel Michael to protect, to clear the space, to keep the vibration high. I call in Archangel Gabriel, the messenger angel, and also known as the angel of love. He was the angel that, spoke, let the three wise men know that Jesus was coming. He was the one that came to Mary and let her know that she was pregnant with Jesus, in the Bible, and so he's the messenger angel, and I always ask him to give me the right words with my clients so that I say things in a way that uplifts them, that brings healing, that brings peace, that brings hope. And he's also the angel of love. He's the angel of love and lovers. And so I always ask him to infuse my time with my sitter with love. And then last but not least, Archangel Raphael, the angel of healing, asking him to infuse his green healing light into our time together, asking him to help me deliver information that's going to bring healing of the mind, healing of the heart, bringing knowledge that could lead to healing. And over the years, my medical mediumship has really picked up working with him. And being a nurse, I always preface that with, this is not medical advice. You have to be careful of that. But I do share the things that they tell me. They're taking me to your gallbladder. I'm getting a feeling like you really should get that checked out. Or they're taking me to your heart. I want you to watch your blood pressure and, be aware of that. And so working with those three archangels, I take all of them. Whoever wants to show up. I have random ones show up. I have Uriel and Ariel and all the Sandifon and Metatron. They show up for different clients, but those are my three that I work with. And I keep looking at my windowsill because in my office I have these archangels that my dad got me. They're these beautiful. Made out of, I'm going to grab one. Do you mind if I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll show you guys.
So real quick, I'll use this opportunity. If you're just joining us, we are hanging out with Heidi Kemper and we are talking about angels.
Yeah. So this is my Archangel Michael one.
Oh, cool.
And it's absolutely beautiful. It's bronze and it's the detail on it's amazing. And so I've got him on my windowsill in my office. I've got Raphael and I've got Gabriel. So that's why I keep looking over there. I'm like, you guys are probably like, why does she keep looking that way?
You guys you're looking at the fellows over there.
There we go.
But I do that in my readings. I do that in my readings too. I realize I do that sometimes. I'm talking to my clients and I'll look over kind of to the right. They're always looking like thinking I'm gonna see their loved one, and
someone's walking over there.
It's just and I don't usually see him I don't see him with my eye, right? I see him in my mind's eye. So I don't see with the naked eye, but
I don't really either. Just a couple of times, but usually everything's in the mind's eye.
Yeah.
So my experience with angels is, I'm going to tell you my experience with angels, and then I want to see if yours is similar or different. So my experience with angels is that they're not actually what they present themselves as. They just show us that so that we understand what they are, and that they also are really specifically here to help us, and that they don't really have a gender. That's another thing that they present to us. And I think you already said this part, but they keep reminding me and us through the readings that I do that angels are for everybody.
Yes, you're universal. You're universal.
Yes.
Which is
universal.
specifically important for you, Jenny. I think that's why that comes through.
Because I was not brought up in any kind of religion. So I always just thought that angels were a religious thing. So then when they started coming through for me, I was like, what?
Right.
But they're for everybody. They're not just one religion or one set of religions.
And the same with Jesus, and the same with Mary's mother. Like, that's all universal. So, as and I tell my clients this, and this is one of the things that recently has showed itself, that I'm supposed to be helping deliver the message of, the new earth being here. And that one of the things that comes with the new earth is that anything that separates us, it needs to go. It needs to go. And that includes religion. That includes religion.
Yeah.
And I don't consider myself Catholic anymore. Yes, I baptized Catholic. I raised my children Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I sent my children to Catholic school from preschool through 8th grade. And I believe in the main message of Catholicism, which is, the story of Jesus and treating others with kindness and all of that. And but I definitely do not consider myself religious anymore, and I don't consider myself Catholic anymore, because I just feel like religion separates us. The dogma of religion separates us, and we could talk about that whole topic all day long. But unity, it's time for us to unite. So that's why. Same with politics.
Yeah.
I always identified myself as a Democrat, a diehard Democrat, and I can't say I'm a Democrat anymore either. So I think that when you say the universality, I can't use the word.
Yeah.
Universality. I'm making up words.
Sure, that sounds good.
It works fine. We can make up our own words here. It's okay.
Yeah, we do usually.
That angels are, same thing goes with Jesus. Recently, in this week, crazy thing happened to me just a couple days ago. I got to channel Jesus for the first time, like actually Jesus. And he had been showing himself to me in different things that I had seen on social media, and the theme was that Jesus is pissed off that his message has been skewed. And that people are using his name to judge others, to separate ourselves from each other, to be self-righteous. And his message is always love and unity. And so that message, I just kept getting that through different things that I was seeing and reading. And then I was giving a reading for my father, who ironically was my diehard Catholic father, who is himself now at the end of his life, 78 years old, really saying, what is my religion and what has my church become, and what is this all about? And Jesus had a message for him. And my dad, he has Parkinson's, and he's been really struggling with the shift that's happening on the earth plane. He doesn't understand it. He feels the energy. He's super in tune. He's very intuitive. I get a lot of my intuition from him. But he doesn't understand the whole shift, the new earth being here, and all of that. And so I'm finding that he's asking me on a weekly basis, can you come over and give me a reading? I want to get grounded. I want you to clear my chakras. And
I love that.
It's been amazing. You're talking the guy that was, when I was 17, 18 years old, playing with tarot cards, like, the church is against that. You shouldn't be doing it.
Your brother had to take a whole class about him when he passed away.
Exactly. Right. So anyway, in the reading, Jesus came through, and I'm like, Dad, you're not going to believe this, but Jesus is here. And he's like, oh, well, don't you talk to him all the time? I'm like, no, Dad.
Not really.
No, I mean, yes, I believe in Christ consciousness. I live Christ consciousness. I try to be like Christ. I try to be, to be humble and kind, and to respect and love others, and, do unto others as you'd have done to you. That's how I live my life. But no, Dad, I really haven't had that connection with Jesus in that way. And so, he came through, and he told my dad, you've kind of set yourself up. You're putting yourself in your own purgatory. Like, why do you feel like you need to suffer, for your sins? And my dad's like, well, Jesus did it. And Jesus is like, yeah, well, I'm Jesus. I told you you're forgiven. You said you were sorry. You are sorry for your sins. I've forgiven you. Now it's time for you to forgive you.
Oh.
So my dad was in Vietnam. He had no choice but to join the Navy based on his family upbringing. It was a great opportunity for him to go into the service, and he ended up in Vietnam and saw a lot of bad things there. And he's got post-traumatic stress from that. And that's something that he's been working on probably the last 10 years of his life, processing all of that. And so
I'm glad that he is, though.
Yeah.
Because so many people just push it aside and pretend like it's not there,
Exactly.
It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
It's been an honor. It's been an honor and a privilege, really, to witness my dad go through all these this healing, and really processing it all. But man, oh man, Jesus's message the other day, I'm still in awe. I can't get over it. And there's been a big shift in my dad. I think he really heard it, and we're gonna start working and processing some of those things for him. Maybe even do a soul retrieval. I'm trained in shamanic practice of soul retrieval, and so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that at all.
That was another thing on my list to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention something real quick, because we've been talking about, we've been on the subject of religion and Jesus and stuff like that. So I wanted to go into it a little bit more, because it's interesting seeing your viewpoint from that, because I kind of we're having the same kind of realization, but I'm coming at it from a different point of view. So I was raised Lutheran, but pretty much in my teenage years, like I kind of left religion and had pretty much become agnostic or atheist by the time I was in like my early 20s. And Jenny was, as she mentioned earlier, wasn't raised religious at all. And in our journey in the paranormal and spiritual, there's like, in my mind, we were headed away from all that. I was kind of done with it. I'd kind of developed an antagonistic relationship with organized religion. And so it's like, okay, well, we're doing ghost stuff and we're doing alien stuff, and Jenny's a medium, and we're doing all this stuff. So like we're not in that world anymore.
But then Jesus comes through for me too. And he's like, what? What do you mean?
I love it.
And so for us who are, kind of don't consider ourselves to be religious, but as we, I guess, become more spiritual, like Jenny begins to encounter angels, and Jesus starts having messages in our community, like in the teamwork community. You're starting to get messages from Jesus, and then we have the spirit art.
And then Peter the Apostle is someone who works with me.
Oh, I love that.
Again, I was like, what? Like who? What? No, you're not.
Yeah.
But he is. And then I wanted to go back a little bit to what you said when you had Jesus come through for you, is that he was upset. Peter was upset, like really grumpy and grouchy the first time he came through too, because
chills.
He could not understand what the hell we were doing on earth, kind of with each other. Is the same thing, like why, how can you guys still be doing all of this terrible stuff to each other? And so it was the same thing. But anyway, so Frosty, you were talking about something a little different.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, so it becomes very interesting because what I'm starting to see is so I've been a Christian and I've been agnostic and atheist. And then as I started becoming more spiritual, I started realizing that a lot of these things are all coming together into one thing. As I understand more Eastern philosophy, as I began to understand like meditation, and I started experimenting with trying to develop my own abilities and stuff like that. All of a sudden, you start realizing that all of these things are connected, and all of these things are actually like the same thing. And even as you're talking about, like this shift that pretty much anybody we've had on this program that we've talked about with abilities is talking about this new thing that's coming. Like this shift is happening, which
Huge.
is one of the things that really, in a lot of ways, Jesus talked about, right? Like the new earth, right?
Yeah.
So this isn't a foreign concept, and it's a concept that's been talked about by many different religions, faiths, philosophies, whatever.
Well, what's amazing is, hey, we're here for it. Like, we chose to be here for this, guys. Like, we signed up for this. And I'm like, it's so exciting. Like, it's palpable. It's palpable. But there's so much fear. There's so much fear that's created. And so it's super important that those of us who are light workers, those of us that are spiritual, that understand it, that we help usher in this new earth and help bring peace and understanding to people that aren't really understanding what the heck's happening.
So I just had a client the other day whose main issue was fear around things that are happening. So what kind of advice do you have for people that are stuck in that fear headspace?
How I like to explain it to people, to my clients, is that it used to be that you can only access the 5D reality, the fifth dimension, when you crossed over, when you went to heaven. That was the only time you could access that vibration. And now with the veil thinning since 2012, we are able to experience that 5D, that high vibration. We're able to live there and be there. Um and it waxes and it wanes, and it has everything to do with what you surround yourself with, who you surround yourself with. And so I always encourage, really be careful of the media that you're listening to. The media right now, I have not watched the news probably in about 5 or 6 years.
2020, put that
we
thing
had,
down. Didn't look at
we
it
had to
anymore.
quit, and it's tough for me because I'm a teacher, an educator, and I'm in a history field and government field, political science and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so I kind of had it to be up on the news to be able to do my job. And even I've had to that was like a thing, like my whole life, like whatever, 6 o'clock, the evening news comes on. We find
Oh,
out what happened
yeah.
in the world today.
Yep.
And during COVID, like my daughters who were both young, one specifically very young at that point in time, were becoming like visibly distressed.
Yeah.
And Jenny was like, "That's it.
Yeah.
We're not doing it
We're
anymore.
not watching it anymore.
And we haven't.
Yep.
And we haven't. And I'm just willing to be a little bit less informed, I guess, because, well, I mean, I do my own stuff and I do my own research and I learn about things, and I do the news on here. The weird news is all the news we need.
Right.
So, yeah. So
smelly socks and everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
But anyway,
Yeah,
you had more advice. So be
Yeah.
careful about the media that you
The
watch
media that you surround
and
yourself with, people that you surround yourself with. So, low vibe people, you're gonna get low vibe. But the 3D, I explained to them, 3D is everything that you see, the media, the things that separate us, religion, politics, anything low vibration, is all the negative stuff. And anything less than 3D, less than the third dimension, going in the second, and really low vibe, right? And so I encourage them to, hang around with people that make you feel good about yourself. Hang around with positive people. If you hang out with negative people that are in fear, that are constantly criticizing other people and not good people, like you're what you surround yourself with. Like they say, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
And then the other advice that I give them is to really tune into themselves for what the truth is.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of foreign to some people.
Mhm.
And so trying to explain something that people don't really understand, is even hard for me to put into words.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the biggest advice I give people is to listen to high vibrational music. Read books that bring up the vibration. Volunteer, do things that bring your heart and your mind joy and peace, because whatever your heaven is what you should be doing more of on the earth plane. And when I connect with loved ones in spirit for my clients, I always tell them, our loved ones are in heaven. It looks just like it looks here. It's just all the good stuff. And so whatever their heaven on earth is pretty much what they're doing on the other side. So if they like to golf, if they like to boat, if they like
Mhm.
to, do art or
I
sing,
have
dance.
a dad spirit for someone in the chat tonight who comes through, and every time he comes through, he's sitting in his favorite armchair reading a book.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I'm happy. I was happy to find out we still have books on the other side, because that's what I like to do too.
Yes. Oh, yes, for sure. For sure. And they can smoke. They can smoke and drink, and they don't really have a body. You don't have to eat over there, but you can if you want
You
to.
can if you want
Yeah,
to.
I
You don't,
probably will. Yeah.
So yeah, just whatever your heaven is, whatever you enjoy doing, like keep raising that vibe for the world, and surround yourself with people that bring joy and happiness. But anything that divides us needs to go away, and we need to focus on love and unity. So I see us starting to live in community again. I don't quite know what that looks like yet. It's kind of fuzzy to me.
Mhm.
But I do see we are going to be starting to come together and sharing our resources. Um, and that to me looks like food, growing our own food, things like that. So I do see us starting to depend on each other more. But again,
That's really
it's
interesting.
fuzzy. It's fuzzy. It's fuzzy.
I I saw a post today. And it's really weird that you brought that up, because there was someone. It's like a community, like a local community, like on Facebook kind of thing, like people who live around here. And someone was like, "I'm trying to bring back like some bartering stuff," and she was like,
Yeah.
"I'm
Yes,
I'm
please.
a."
That's what
She
I
was like,
see.
"Yeah." She was like, I'm a massage therapist and a Reiki healer,
Mhm.
and I'm looking for hairdressers and like,
Yeah,
or like, what do you offer? And next thing you
totally.
know, I started reading all these comments about like, I'm like a hairdresser, or I'm like, I do like lawns, I do, all these different skills that people have. And it's like, there
Yep.
you go. Like, I'll do a Reiki healing session for you, and you can cut my hair. And, you know, so it was really interesting that you brought that up, because I just saw that this afternoon. Yeah.
That's what we're going to be starting to do. That's how we're going to start. That's how we're going to start living. And that's how we should always have been living. And
Yeah.
so we're going to, the government is changing
Yeah.
and collapsing, not just in the
Mhm.
United States, but all across the
Yep.
world, in every country. Um, Patriarchy is dying.
Mhm.
Women are just as important as the men are, and just as valuable, and we bring just as much to the table. Um, and so those old ways of being are going away. Our money system's going to be different. I
So
I
I got a
again
question
don't know
about
what
all
that
of
looks
this,
like. Yeah,
The money system is going to have to be different, because I
because it
don't know if it have
sucks.
much it's not going to have much value anymore. Yeah.
not worth anything. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
not to bring us back around to the fear, but do you
Mm.
think that there is going to be, or that there needs to be, a huge traumatic event for all of that stuff to be put into place? Or what do you think might happen there?
Well, I think there's a couple timelines. I think there's a bunch of. I think
Mhm.
there's alternate timelines, and the way that I understand it is there's going to be like a split. there's eventually going to be a split is how I'm being shown it energetically. I don't quite understand it to the terms that I can explain it, but
Yeah.
energetically I understand it as where you choose to vibrate is what your reality is going to be.
Mhm.
Right. So I feel like those of us that are light workers that focus on love and unity, that we're going to have a high vibration experience. And those that live in the fear and the separation and the hatred and the negativity and the low vibration, they're going to have a different experience. But when I say it, I don't say it with
Yeah.
judgment. I don't say it with judgment
Mhm.
at all. It's the only way I can describe it. A
Plus,
lot
we
of the
don't.
stuff coming, there's no words. I
I
don't have
don't know if anybody knows the mechanics of how that's going to happen either.
Mhm.
exactly.
Like everybody kind of sees the same thing or similar things happening, but nobody really understands how. Which
Right.
Yeah, because
we're
what would that
probably
look
not
like?
supposed to.
Right.
What would that look like? Like all of a sudden there's a world that exists almost like the rapture where but maybe it's just like where like people exist and they forgot that the other people who went to another dimension like even existed, like a Mandela effect.
I mean, that's
You know?
Yeah.
that's been one of the theories that I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually haven't thought about the Mandela effect being an offshoot of there being a shifting dimension. But that makes sense.
Could
Yeah.
be that's
Yeah.
what it was part of it.
Yeah.
Can't have the hyphen and Kit Kat in the new dimension, son. Gotta get rid of that hyphen. No cornucopias in the new dimension.
Your Fruit of the Loom didn't have a cornucopia in this dimension.
Yeah,
That was too
Yeah.
low vibe.
Yeah.
too low vibe.
Yeah. And it makes me feel good when I talk to other people like you guys that understand what I'm saying, because I wish I could put it to words.
Yeah.
Mm.
We
And
don't know.
yeah, it's big.
But
It's big. And I'm here for it.
I'm really
I'm here
hoping
for it.
for the
Mm.
what Hoagster said, the nice calm one where we're
Yeah,
all
hopefully we
growing
get a
plants
nice
together and
um,
being nice to each other. And yeah, can we do that,
That's my
yeah,
plan.
please?
and
That's my
some of it
plan. That's my plan.
I was always someone who rooted for interesting stuff. You know, like when I was a teenager, it's like I wish, I could live through some. And now it's like, man, I'm done. Like
Got
we've
your
had
wish.
enough.
Got your
Like
wish, Frosty.
holy
Pandemic,
smokes.
wars, etc.,
Yeah,
etc.
9/11, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff we lived, COVID, all the stuff we
Yeah.
lived through, and it's like, okay,
Mm.
I'm ready to live in uninteresting times now. Like, it was cool just being boring. Let's go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I was bored. I was just talking to somebody about that the other day. Um, and they were saying like they went somewhere and they had gone to their parents' house and their parents didn't have internet or something, and then so they didn't have their phone or TV, and they were stuck there because somebody had to use the car, and they're like, I was so bored. And I'm like, I can't tell you the last time I was bored. Like, I mean, there's always something happening. I'm always rushing here, there, or everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I want to be bored. I like to keep going. I'm
Yeah.
total Gemini
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Frosty's Gemini too.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be busy planting crops
Cool.
and raising animals and being
Yep.
nice to each other.
Well, you guys can grow the food because I do not do well with
Yeah.
plants. So
I don't know where
will.
Jenny thinks we're growing the food either.
You can- Heidi can be the healer. She can
Yep,
be
I'll
like
be the healer, and
our
you guys
healer, doctor,
be the
shaman
food.
person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll take care of some animals. We just saw a bunch of cows today. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the soul retrieval. So
Yes.
I kind of have an idea of what that is, but I think what you do, it might be a little bit different. Tell us what it is for you.
So soul retrieval, I went through soul retrieval training from my teacher Lori Lipton, again, who trained under someone who trained under Sandra Ehrman, who was the person that wrote the book about soul retrieval. And It is used across the world to teach about soul retrieval. It's one of the most referred to books about the topic. And soul retrieval is an ancient practice, an ancient healing modality that the shamans would use back when we lived in indigenous times and we lived in tribes. And the shaman was the one that everybody went to for healing. So if they were sick, they would go to the shaman. If they, um, you know, if they lost their cow died, they would go to the shaman. If they were having, issues with marital issues or issues with their siblings, they would go to the shaman. The shaman would be the wise one that would help them through everything. And soul retrieval was how the shaman took care of everything. So within 3 days of whatever happened, you would go to the shaman. He or she would do a soul retrieval and bring those soul parts back to you. And so anytime we go through a traumatic event, could be a car accident, breaking an ankle, the death of a loved one, being held up at gunpoint, all these different traumatic events that happen. What happens is parts of your soul can break off from your main soul, and it can fragment. And so a lot of times in psychology, they will talk about how people will be like, they have like they will disassociate, or they will forget things that happened to them. And that's one of the symptoms of soul loss. And so in modern day medicine, we don't address this. And so when we stopped living in indigenous times, soul retrieval practice stopped. Now, there are still tribes across the world that still have a shaman that still operate in that way. And within 3 days of whatever their trauma is, they go to the shaman and their soul parts are retrieved and they're whole again. What happened was when Industrial Revolution came along, we quit living in tribes and the shamans went away. And the churches came in and the churches pushed the shamans away. And the church became who people would go to when they had issues and concerns. And we stopped doing soul retrieval. And so not only did we start dying and reincarnating, I personally believe in past lives. I believe that we live multiple lifetimes, and that we can come back into more lifetimes with soul loss from other lifetimes. So what I've been taught in my training is how to access non-ordinary reality through a meditative state, going into theta consciousness. So as a shaman, instead of calling it meditation, it's called a journey. And in a journey, you enter theta consciousness, which is the level right before you fall asleep. And in theta consciousness is when you can connect with, you travel either to the upper world, the lower world, or the middle world. The middle world is where we are. The upper world, people would consider heaven. The lower world, being born Catholic, I always thought it was like, oh my God, is that hell? No. The lower world is very magical. It's where spirit animals are. And a lot of wonderful healing can take place in the lower world too. And so as a shamanic practitioner, I go into a journey. The client sits and I tell them to go to their happy place. And then I go into a journey, a meditative state, usually through drumming. Shamans usually meditate to the sound of a drum and go into theta consciousness. Usually I almost always go to the lower world first. And then I will be greeted with a spirit animal, and the spirit animal will take me to retrieve the parts that need to be collected. And so I set the intention for spirit to show me what parts are going to serve this client's highest good today to be retrieved. And so they will take me either to past lives or something from this lifetime, some sort of traumatic event that they went through. And that's where I retrieve the parts, I bring them back. to ordinary reality, to this consciousness. I come out of the meditative state and I blow the soul parts into the client. So I usually blow them into their crown chakra and their heart chakra. And then the drum calls you back. You come out of meditative state, out of theta consciousness, and then you sit and discuss with the client the event and what spirit showed you needed to be retrieved. And it's very sacred work. It is life-changing work. I have had soul retrievals done on me by other practitioners, and it's life-changing. I don't consider myself a shaman. I think it's a very special thing. I wouldn't say I'm a shaman, but I'm able to do shamanic practices. And it's a very wonderful healing modality. And I see life-changing things happen for my clients.
I
So
only got about 100 questions about it, but I think
yeah.
Frosty might want to share his experience with us. Do you?
Specifically when you're talking about like with my Reiki session or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, the only thing I have to share about that specifically was like this. So I don't know how much we want to talk about.
Well, I can give it the short version if you would like.
Yeah.
So Frosty had a Reiki session done. This was many years ago. And I had never heard of anything like that before. It was kind of like just getting into the whole, spiritual world.
Yeah, that's probably about 2013.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And she picked up on a fragment that had gone missing from him when he had a car accident where he should have died in the car accident. And she brought it back. And because I knew him before the accident, during the accident, after the accident, and he changed. Like his personality changed with that car accident. And it was
chills.
It was different from the time the accident happened all the way until she brought this soul fragment back.
Which
and then
like 14 years, pretty much.
It was a long time.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden it was like, this was the person that I knew before that happened.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah. I can't say enough about it. And I think that society itself would be a much healthier society if we went back to this and went back to this healing modality. So I can't speak about it enough. It's life-changing. It's an honor to serve in that way for sure.
What kind of animals do you come across?
For the longest time, I had one animal show up for me all the time, but he doesn't come anymore because I talked about it too much. So you're not supposed to technically talk about who your animals are, but I can share. When I first started doing soul retrievals, I worked with the reindeer, and it's the beautiful, like big reindeer with the big hoofs and just really majestic. And they would fly me. I would go to the lower world. You get to the lower world usually through a tree. So you travel to non-ordinary reality, and you travel down the tree, your soul, obviously not your whole person. And it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. You go down the tree and then you end up in the lower world. For me, the lower world it always looks like a desert. To some people, it will look like a water's edge. Everyone's got a like different place that they land. But for me, it looks like a desert. And the reindeer would come, and I would jump on the reindeer, and we would fly to different lifetimes. To different lifetimes. Now it's a different animal each time, but probably
do you think Do you think the different animals have to do with the person that you're reading, that you're doing it for?
Yes, a lot of times
Yeah.
their power animal will come in. So um, uh, I also do essence retrieval and power retrievals, which is also a shamanic practice. And um, a lot of times you go to the lower world and you work with their power animals or their spirit animals. So we can have multiple spirit animals, and we can have spirit animals come at different times based on what we're going through at that time. So, but yeah, a lot of times it's connected to the person, the sitter, the client, the person you're healing for. Yeah.
How do you know that you're in the theta state?
It's very magical. A lot of times you can fly. You can be in the water, like swimming with dolphins and sharks, and not have a fear in the world, and you're breathing and you're fine. So it's very magical. And
what does your physical body feel like or doing while that's happening?
So you're basically like sitting there, like laying down or sitting with your eyes closed, and you're basically like meditating. And it's just it's your soul. Your soul then goes on this journey. Yeah. So yeah, you're in theta consciousness because it's almost like a dream. So what will happen when you first learn how to journey and go into theta consciousness, like I said, usually it would be with a drum, and you go in, and it almost looks like a dream. And you will be somewhere. A lot of times if I do like an essence retrieval or some kind of a healing, I'll go to the lower world, and there'll be like an altar, and then their guides will show up. Their guides sometimes look like animals, sometimes they're animals, sometimes they look um, like ethereal beings. Sometimes I'll travel to the upper world, and my power spot in the upper world, it is a rose garden. It's beautiful. It's got fountains and roses everywhere and beautiful brickwork. And my loved ones will come, and they greet me. My grandma, my grandfather, my brother, my daughter that I lost. In between my son and my daughter, we lost a baby before she was born. And so it's like a dream state is what it feels like. And so a lot of times when you come back, if you're journeying with other people, you talk about your journey. And sometimes when people are explaining it, it sounds like some like weird roller coaster ride. First I was flying, and then I turned into an eagle, and I dove into the ocean, and I was swimming with the dolphins, and then I saw a mermaid, and we had to talk about, so it's like a little.
And then I rode on a unicorn with Jesus, and we went to outer space.
Right. So
that's one I heard from somebody.
Exactly.
I didn't make that one up.
It's kind of trippy, but it's fascinating, and I suggest to anybody to learn how to do it, because it's fascinating. And I try to come back, and when I do them on my own, I try to write them down right away so I don't forget any parts of it, because it will leave you as quickly as it comes in. And then you remember parts later.
That sounds very similar to me of like past life regressions I've had done, where it's like you have to write it down, because if you don't, you're going to forget a good portion of that information.
Or have it recorded.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Yes.
Yeah.
That's something I would like to learn, past life regression, how to do that for people. That would be fascinating to learn.
Well, you guys should barter.
And then you guys
there you go. Do you do past life regression?
I do not do hypnosis, but I get people into a meditative state where they can start to visualize their past lives.
That. Chills. Well, okay. Spirit's telling me, yeah, we're supposed to work together, girl.
Okay, good. Let's do
it. We'll exchange. I'll do a soul retrieval, essence, whatever you want, or reading, whatever, and then you can do a past life regression for me. And
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's work it out.
Yeah.
So, what are some, I don't know if symptoms are the right thing, the right word to use, but what are some signs or symptoms or things that people would be able to figure out if they need a soul retrieval?
So a lot of times after somebody goes through something traumatic, the closer you do it to the traumatic event, probably the better. So a lot of times somebody will have like a massive loss, or they'll go through something really jarring. Like one of my clients, I remember she recently came in and she said, I feel like I'm not with it. I feel I'm out of it all the time. I'll wake up after like 12 hours of sleep and I'm not necessarily tired, but I feel spaced out. Um, I feel like a part of my soul is gone. I feel like when that person, she had a death in the family. I felt like, a part of my soul went with them when they died. Um, I can't remember parts of the event, so they'll forget parts of it. Um, and just feeling foggy, like a foggy feeling, is super common. And so sometimes you'll have somebody come to you and just feel like I'm not motivated. I feel like I don't have direction. I don't have clarity. Um,
What if
and
you're not aware of it because it's something from a different life?
Right. And so a lot of times, while I'm doing a reading for a client, I will be shown things from past lives. I'll say, oh, you know what, they're telling me that, you had a past life where you lost your wife during childbirth, and that's why you're afraid about, being a father. That's one of the fears you have. So spirit's telling me that it would benefit you to have a soul retrieval from that lifetime, to retrieve those soul parts so that you can face this now without fear. So a lot of times, how you died in past lives, as you know, can affect this lifetime, and cause phobias, or cause blocks, or cause irrational fears. So I will get that in messages, but it's I would say usually I am shown by spirit when somebody would benefit, a soul retrieval, and really pretty much every person can benefit
I
from
was
it.
gonna say that because every life has its own
Mhm.
set of traumas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if this is happening,
And we've been doing
maybe,
it for a long
n-
time.
if,
Not
Yeah.
even if it's only happening during like 25% of our traumas, that adds up over a lot of
Yeah.
lifetimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anytime you have
And
a block on something, if there's a block on something, an energetic block, I think it's always interesting to examine, like, what could that be? Could there be something in this lifetime that made you afraid of, you know, I don't know, afraid of being married or getting into a serious relationship? Is there something in this lifetime that could have caused it? Or, if you can't think of anything in this lifetime, then there's a pretty good chance it happened something in a past lifetime. So, um, yeah, I think as a society, this is something that is really, it's very
Mhm.
sub culture. It's not
Mhm.
very well known.
Yeah.
Um, I
No.
hope I hope as time goes on, it becomes more mainstream, like mediumship and being a psychic has. I mean, I think about when I was 19, 20 years old, just learning tarot and horoscopes, and how, you would talk about them, people would like look at you weird. And and even mediumship, it had such a, um, uh, it was such a subculture. People didn't talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what's
Stigma.
normal. And now it's
Yeah.
God, thank God it's normal. And,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can show up as our real authentic selves, and we can share our gifts with the world, and not be afraid of it. But when I heard those stories at the beginning about witchcraft, and that 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 really is upsetting to me,
Yeah.
because it it's not right. It's not
No.
right.
Well, there's definitely, like, for all the momentum we have going one way, there is always that reaction.
Pull from the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think we're definitely seeing that. And we don't, we kind of stay away from some topics like politics on the show, but when they bleed over, I think, we're definitely living in an environment, I think, where everything's getting pulled to the extremes. And so as one thing goes one way, we're getting a pull and a reaction from the other. So as
Yeah.
people become more in tune with religion, more in tune with their spirituality, as people start to find their own clarification, you're going to find people that don't want that to happen.
Well,
And I
and
think, we get
yeah,
that,
well,
you know.
religion, we could talk about religion, but I do feel like I know, and I wish I had the statistics in front of me because I don't like to just say like some random number. I really wish I had it. Um, one of the things that I got into last year, I joined a partnership for a streaming network called the Spirit Channel, and I'm not sure if you guys know Rob Thompson or
Mhm.
Heather Bordelin from the Ghost Finders. So this is their streaming network, and I joined partnership with them, and we are really building our network to focus on all things spirit. And so we have TV shows, we have podcasts, we have 5D music, and it's all high vibe. And so it's kind of like we want to be like a YouTube, like a spiritual YouTube type thing.
Mhm.
And with that came, research on presenting our channel to advertisers because we have subscriptions, but we also
Mhm.
have to have advertisers to keep the lights on and to be able to
Mhm.
to produce this. And in our research we found that religion is falling away, that people are really becoming more spiritual, and that by the year 2030 um, witchcraft is and paganism, like it's going to be the number one quote unquote religion, that people are stepping away from organized religion. People are turned off by it. People are tired of the hypocrisy, Christianity being the number one, we're supposed to love each other and be united, but yet you're judging me based on who I love. You're judging me on how I live my life. You're judging me in so many different ways. And how is religion lifting me up? We're supposed to be uniting. And so people are walking away from religion and are becoming more spiritual. And so I find that those statistics extremely encouraging. Um, and and we're going to be a better world because of it. So um, I just think that that's the trajectory of where we're going, and that's what the research is showing.
Mhm.
That's what the statistics are showing. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep
Well,
going.
I commend the idea too for the network because doing a high vibe thing is really important. That's one of the things we do with this show. Like, the witching hours, we talk about everything here. We talk about some scary stuff, and we talk about aliens, and we talk about things that some people consider scary, but we don't try to present it that way. And we don't try to present things as frightening. I try to present things as inquisitive. Like, let's
Right.
talk about stuff and see if we can find out some information.
Right.
Um, and that's something that me and Jenny have noticed with her mediumship, like doing her channel and trying to get YouTube, and how many likes do you get, and how many subscribers can you get? And we have this thing, the witching hours. We're on TikTok and YouTube and all these places, and we talk about this quite often, that if something is presented as a little bit negative, we get way more clicks on it. And,
Mhm.
like, we don't wanna do that, like, so
Yeah.
I intentionally
Fear
never
mongering
Yeah.
you will not see, me try to come up with a headline
intentionally make it
that's
fear
fear-mongering.
mongering. Yeah.
Right. Well,
But it is the road less traveled, and it's a little harder to do it in a positive way because the algorithms aren't built for it.
But
yeah.
the people that are looking for it and the people that are meant to be there are going to be people that find it.
Yeah, the
Totally.
people who are
Totally.
meant to find it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what you say all the time, Jenny, the people who are meant to watch it, the people who are
Mhm.
looking for that are be the
Yeah.
ones who do. Yeah.
1,000%. thousand
Yep.
percent. Yeah. I think to piggyback on what you were saying, of course, the thoughts going and coming and going now. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. All right, it escaped me. It'll
Okay.
come back.
We're
It'll
almost
come
2
back
hours
before
in,
we
so
end.
Yeah.
we're there.
It'll hopefully come back, or I'll text you guys
Yeah.
after and tell you whatever I
Yeah.
thought of. Sorry, it escaped
Oh,
me.
no, it's
No
fine.
problem.
So,
And
So
so I wanna say real quick, if anybody in chat, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on
we
Facebook,
forgot to ask about questions
if you
earlier.
have a question, feel free to get those in last minute. If you have them, we will pass
If
them
you got any
along
questions, get them in now.
to Heidi.
Yeah.
Wrapping it up, y'all.
Yeah.
I know
So
my phone is starting to die, and I got like, I think 17% or something left. So
Okay.
well,
yeah.
we cannot, there's no time to start a new topic, but I counted how many topics that I had left, and it's like about 9 or 10. So we're going to have you back on.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. This is like my fun. I remember what I was going to say. We're talking
Okay,
about fear.
good.
There we go.
You're talking about fear. We're
Yeah.
talking about fear and the paranormal. And people ask me all the time, aren't you so scared of all that? And I'm like, you guys, it's not scary. Not scary. It's not scary. I have been, I've had a couple situations where, during a seance, it was a seance. So you guys know Sam Beltrusis, the author.
Yeah.
Him and I had the opportunity to investigate Wilson Castle together last October,
Cool.
and he did a seance. So it's a seance, but he calls it a seance. And during it, it was my second seance ever. My first seance ever I did with Patty Negri. So you guys know Patty Negri.
Yeah.
We did that on location in New Orleans. We were shooting an episode of The Ghost Finders. And so I got to do my first ever seance with Patty Negri. That was amazing, but it wasn't scary at all. It was just like what I do every day as a medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same with the seance with Sam, same thing. It wasn't scary. The only difference with that one is there was a spirit that was trying to present themselves as a demon, and literally took my body over. So I was still conscious in my mind, and my
Sam
soul
always
spirit,
says the bad stuff is always coming for him.
he does. But as I'm sitting there with my hands on the table, my hands just start raising by themselves. And it was like, I said out loud, I know I should be scared right now, you guys, but I'm really not, because I know this is like a spirit trying to do whatever. But it's an opportunity for me to remind everybody that you're supposed to use, your protection. So whatever your protection is, mine is Archangel Michael, but I also, when I do investigations, I wear a cross, I wear a St. Michael pendant and a St. Mary pendant. Well, that particular day, I guess I was getting a little, I don't know, cocky, and I thought I don't need to wear them, or I didn't. And so I was like, does anybody have a crucifix or a cross? And so the girl next to me, Kaylee, she took hers off and put it on me, and the spirit left, and that was that. But like, it's not scary because it's the same kind of a thing. I mean, yes, you're going to go places where you're going to have dark entities and low vibrational things. But I always have the power of protection, and I always call protection in. The only really scary episode that I ever really had in my lifetime was when I was a little girl, and I would wake up in the night all the time and would sense spirit around me, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And so once I knew what it was, and I got older and I could sleep with the lights on and all that, I finally got over it, and I know now it was just spirit coming to me. So I didn't know what it was, but now that I understand what spirit is, I understand all of that. It's not scary. Yes, there's negative entities.
Yeah.
I have had an attachment before, and that was kind of scary. But I knew who to call to get the attachment removed. And like I said, Archangel Michael's my guy. So as
And
long
it
as you're
seems like
protection.
eight out of 10 times, if you're running across something negative, it's usually just a shitty person.
Right. In real life. Not
Yeah.
even dead or like haunted, right?
Or they
A
were
real
a
life person.
yeah, or they were a shitty person in the living. Now they're just a shitty person on the other side.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not really scary. So that's interesting. Did anybody have any questions, or are we pretty much wrapping it
I
up?
think we're heading on. I do want to talk real quick. I want to give you a chance to tell us what you're doing, but I did notice July 12th through 13th at the Paracon in Connecticut.
Yes.
We're going to be there, and
Yay!
you're going to be there.
And I'm going to be there too. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes. So upcoming things for me. Next month I have an investigation at the Palmer House in not Wisconsin. What state is that? Minnesota. And I'm going to be there with Patty Negri. And we are going to be, it's a 3-day event. We're going to be doing a gallery read together, Patty and I. We're going to be doing a seance, and she's going to be leading a seance. And then we're going to be doing individual readings and investigating the Palmer House.
Cool.
So that is with the Spirit Realm Network. I was invited to do that. And then in June, I am going back to the Wilson Castle with Monique Too Soon. Did you guys know Monique?
I think Sam has told us about her. Yeah.
Yes. And so we're going to be investigating Wilson Castle again. So I'm looking forward to that. Then July, I've got the Paracon in Connecticut. August, there is the Erie Paracon for women in the paranormal. I've been asked to do that. I'm doing that. September, October, November. There's the Fort, the Paracon of the Fort, and then I think I'm going to be doing the Paracon in California on the boat. I think that one I'm going to do with Ken Torres. Him and I were talking the other day about that. So lots of events coming up. Super excited for it. I recently moved offices. My office was in my hometown of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And I just moved in. This is my new office space. I'm in Troy, Michigan now at Centerpiece. It's a healing center. And I'm one of the few psychic mediums here, but I'm here with other healers. So Reiki masters, massage therapists, chiropractors, naturopaths, sound healers, breathwork facilitators, past life regressionists.
Sounds amazing.
I'm so excited to be with like-minded people and really just, we're going to be promoting each other and referring our clients to each other. So it's going to be great. So I'm really excited for this next venture. So.
And then where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
Yes. So you can find me at HeidiKemper.com is my website. And my Facebook page, Heidi Kemper, Living Authentically as a Psychic Medium, or you can go to my personal page. I tend to go there more often, just Heidi Kemper. And then I do have a podcast, Scorpio Rising. It is on YouTube and it is on the Spirit Channel. I've been on a hiatus because I've been going through so many changes, but I'm going to be starting that back up this summer. And I'd love to have you guys on my podcast. So
we would love to be there.
We'll have to talk about it. Maybe we can save some of those questions for that one, and we'll figure it out. So
that sounds good.
This has been so much fun, you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And can't wait to see you guys in July.
It's be
excellent. Yeah. So for everyone listening, that's HeidiKemper.com, HeidiKemper.com. If you need the link, it'll be down in the description below the video.
And for everybody that's watching live, it's everywhere that we're watching live.
Pinned to the top of the chat. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to it. We'll see you in July for sure. I think we're gonna try. I think they're setting up for us to do a live episode from Paracon. So we're gonna need some people to come through and talk to us. So we'll have to hit you up for that too.
Oh, I'd love it.
The last thing I want to mention before we head out tonight, tonight's an important night. We probably should have mentioned at the beginning. Tonight is the last night to get a merch package.
It is
for the Team Weird Takeover. So Team Weird Takeover, really quick. Team Weird, we are headed to Lake Shawnee Abandoned Amusement Park in West Virginia, June 7th and 8th. We're going to spend the night there. We're going to do some paranormal investigation. Jenny's going to do some readings. We're going to have Irene there. We're going to do a gallery reading, maybe some channeling from Jenny around the campfire. We're going to do some really cool stuff that night. If you want your tickets, you can go to thewitchinghourspodcast.com and you can get yourself your basic ticket, which is everything you need. If you really want the merch package, which is just making some custom merch to go with the event, the Team Weird Takeover stuff, get there tonight, tomorrow. We'll switch it to tomorrow. We'll add 24 hours onto this. Go ahead and you can go there and get your merch package.
As soon as we're out.
You can go and get your merch package ticket, and we'll get you in for that. Other than that, we hope to see everyone there. We already have a great group of people. We're totally excited about it, and we're ready to get this thing going. It's coming up pretty quickly. Thank you, everybody, for coming in tonight. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out here on Twitch with us, all of our wonderful Team Weird people and friends, and everyone who was hanging out over on Facebook. And to all of you who are listening at another time and another place, We will see you next time. And for everyone who's still hanging out with us here on Twitch, we are going to go find somebody to raid tonight. Thanks everybody for coming in. Let me see here. I did want to say, thanks to everybody for coming in. We had a whole bunch of people in here tonight. Yep. Hoaxers, thank you for all the comments and questions. CMC came in, right at the top. Cole Drake, thanks so much for all the comments tonight and all the insight you were providing.
20 stream streak.
Yeah, and 20 stream streak. Hoaxers for the sub. We appreciate it all. Thank you all so very much. Who do we have? We have Weird Paul. We have the only supers on tonight. Novia, Tarot, Maxi Coon. How about we go see the only super? It's been a minute since we've gone over and seen the only super. We'll go.
He changed his name.
Yeah, Super Murgatory used to be. Make sure I type this in here. The only super. The only super is a better name than the only supper. The only supper would make me kind of hungry. All right, everybody. You on tomorrow night, Jenny? Readings Friday night?
I should be.
All right, Friday night medium readings with Medium Jenny Lee on Twitch. We'll see you all tomorrow. If not, we'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about the spirit box and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Bye, guys. Thanks.